Enter Abraham's tent, where it all began, where the promises of God were spoken by angels, and where the troubles of man found divine answers. Listen now as experts on Judaism, Christianity, and Islam discuss the intersections of religion, politics, and power. No secrets, no agendas, no retreat. With our political correctness surgically removed, join us now in Abraham's tent.
Hello and welcome to this week's edition of Abraham's Tent. I'm Cory Miller and this is Dr. Mark Christian. Thanks for being with us. And we've got a lot to talk about this week. I think we want to talk primarily about President Trump's alleged temporary immigrant ban that has been much maligned, and kind of go over some of the truth versus fiction related to the supposed ban. So anyway, Dr. Mark, welcome, and good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Let's start in. What are your thoughts? What do you know? I know that you a lot of times get information that the rest of us aren't necessarily privy to, related to particularly Middle Eastern goings on. What have you heard?
Well, the topic of immigration has been very close to me for quite some time. As you know, I'm an immigrant myself, and I'm a father to an immigrant and a husband to an immigrant. So the immigration topic itself is very close to my heart. And I was very worried when I have seen the uprising of the number of immigrants coming to America and so forth, that were not having the best of America in their mind, especially lately coming from different countries.
Now let me ask you, some people are going to watch this and say, well, it's good enough for you, but not for them.
See, that's a very good point and valid point. America has been a safe haven for me and for my family, and my prayer and my hope and my work on a daily basis is to keep America the same way, safe haven for others. And I would love to see, and I would share the goodness that I have received in America with others across the globe. But it hurts me when I see people who does not hold the same values, American values, who wants to come over here to take advantage of America, and at the same time stab America in the back. And those are the people that they are not. The problem is having those people, this kind of people in America, is going to close the doors of America as a safe haven for others, as well. The reason I'm over here, because as an ex-Muslim, I would have been killed any other country other than America. So you come up with the ideology over here that espouse the same kind of ideas of killing infidels, then it is not a safe haven for me or for anybody else from the same path. And America has been a safe haven for many who have been persecuted. Why? Because we keep our ideas of and ideals of freedom and respect and appreciation of the founding fathers and many things.
Safe community.
Safe community. You have the right to voice your opinion, and nobody has the right to stop you from voicing your opinion and enforcing any kind of ideas on you. And those are the things that I appreciate so much. But to be honest with you, there was many things that has been done wrong in the last 8 years, and even more than that. Because while other countries in the Middle East has rejected the danger that was kind of inflicted on them, especially Muslim countries, there is a fact that there is no one refugee in any of the countries of Saudi Arabia, of Emirates, of Oman, of Qatar. All of those are very, very wealthy countries, and they have the ability and capability to host the whole country of Syria and Jordan and Iraq all together, and give every one of them the means and the need that they want. But none of them had any.
They could put them in air-conditioned tents with clean water.
Absolutely, but none of them did.
Yeah.
So
well, and one other thing, another I think specious argument that's being made is the vetting process. They would be no more vetted in Saudi Arabia as they are here. The big bone of contention is that, well, these people are taking 6 to 9 months to vet, which is an absolute. I don't know what the vetting process is that they're using, but there is no viable vetting process available.
And this is something that I would love people to know as well, that since Syria has been a falling state, most of the refugees who walks into Jordan, the nearby country, or Turkey, or other nations. Some of them were in Egypt, by the way, and then General Sisi of Egypt actually kind of stopped the immigration, put an indefinite ban on any Syrian coming to Egypt. And this is a Muslim country, and they have been in kind of a union back in the 60s, but right now he's not accepting any Syrians coming in the country. And that tells you that there is Muslims who are doing that. So anybody who says this is a Muslim country, a Muslim ban, is ridiculous to say that. But going back to my point, walking into any of the camps that was set for refugees coming out of the atrocities and the craziness that's going on in Syria has no means whatsoever to vet anybody. The problem is everybody walks into in those camps can start up with a new identity and start afresh, which is a good thing in a way, starting afresh. Everybody.
It's like a new social security number.
And they actually, this is what they do. The UN is setting kind of biometric units in Jordan as well. And what they do is they issue for them IDs and identity based on the information that is giving to them by the Syrians. So, or by anybody walks into those camps. So anybody walks into the camp, claims that he is so-and-so, and this is the beginning of his identity. So when we say over here we have 2 years of vetting and all the kind of stuff, is based
camp time.
From the camp time. Not all of the people are coming in as terrorists, absolutely not. There is many who are coming in America who looking for other things to do, and safe haven and American dream, and everybody is enjoying what America has to offer, thinking big and dreaming big, and they have the right to do that, and trying to accomplish those dreams is great. But the end of the day, if you find somebody who have a criminal background, he's not going to come in and says, I committed a couple of theft in the past, or I have killed somebody and I broke out of jail. They're not going to say that.
Or I sympathize with ISIS and I've cut off heads.
That too. Yeah. So this is the problem. You don't have an identity that is verified to go with when you are dealing with the refugees. And here is other thing that everybody has to be paying attention to. The 7 countries that Donald Trump named on his executive direction or order is all of them, 6 of those nations has no form of government whatsoever. And I mean by seriously, they don't have a government. Like Libya, there is no one person that you can call.
You can't call the police.
Well, there is a kind of a militia, there is no central government, there is no president for the country. Some will say, Yemen is the same thing.
Absolutely.
Somalia is the same. Syria, absolutely. Yes, we have Assad, but are you kidding me? He cannot even control his own house. So the 6 of those countries has no government whatsoever, except Iraq might be one of those 6 countries that has a government, but as you know, the government of Iraq is not controlling the majority of Iraq.
And ISIS runs a good portion of Iraq.
Absolutely. And they don't have even way to control their own cities and so forth. So there is no government whatsoever in 6 of those 7 nations.
Which answers the question when people say, well, why don't they, it must be a backdoor deal, it must be a handshake deal because they didn't include Saudi Arabia and they didn't include this and they didn't include that. It clearly is not a Muslim ban because, as we know, as most people know, maybe, the majority of Muslims in the world live in Indonesia. They don't live in the Middle East.
Yes.
And we don't see an Indonesia ban.
Yes. And here is why. Before I jump to why those nations are not included in the temporary ban, one of the nations that on the 7 is Iran. And Iran, as you know, has a set government. That government has no diplomatic relationship with the United States of America whatsoever, and no cooperation with America whatsoever since 1979.
And they're going to reciprocate, mind you. They're not going to let us in either.
Absolutely. And here is what they did. They sent a letter to the Swiss embassy because there is no relationship.
Yes.
So we cannot actually call the Iranian government and say, we have somebody coming into our nation. Can we get some background information? We cannot do that because there is no information. Even when they wanted to reciprocate, They couldn't have a way to find a way to send a letter to the American embassy because there is no American embassy over there.
We could have asked Hillary just to write it up in Gmail and save it to draft.
And with the username.
They would have got the message
Yes.
pretty quickly.
But going back to your point about why Egypt and Malaysia and Indonesia and Saudi Arabia on top of all those countries, many people don't know this, but many of the intelligence community in America is dependent on the intelligence community on those nations.
In host nations.
And those nations are providing a very, very important information and background on many people who come to the United States because they have a very well structured system in place. Yes, it failed, and it has been failed multiple times, and yes, it failed during 9/11 and other places, and yes, they are the one who are propagating the message of the Muslim Brotherhood out of Egypt and the Wahhabism out of Saudi Arabia. Those are the most toxic ideas and ideals, and pushback on pushing forward the Islamic agenda and so forth. But at the end of the day, putting a ban on those people coming from those countries is going to kind of harm the intelligence community and the kind of communication between Egypt and Saudi Arabia and the CIA and other intelligence community in America.
So if there is a negative, that's what it is.
Absolutely. So putting a ban is not going to help anybody. As a matter of fact, we need to have a stronger relationship with countries like Saudi Arabia and Egypt.
Countries that do actually have a central government.
They do have a central government.
Yeah.
We need to put pressure on them to do a better job,
to
clean up their backyard, to push up for the real problem that's going on, all of that. But putting a ban is not going to solve the problem. Putting a pressure on them when the channels are open, Donald Trump or the administration talks to the Saudis government and the Egyptian government and so forth, working with them and putting extreme pressure on them to start implementing the ideals of the new century that we live in and not live with the centuries of the 600s and the 700s. Absolutely, this is needed. But putting a ban, closing the channels is the wrong thing to do.
And the closest we see today would probably be Egypt.
And Saudi Arabia as well. Egypt, absolutely. Saudi Arabia as well, because Saudi Arabia
has a large financial interest in making sure that these things
absolutely,
change.
And they own, Saudi Arabia government, they own lots of deeds for the mosques in America, and they have lots of influence in America. I'm not saying that we should not make them upset, but we should work with them to find ways to be able to deal with the problems that we have in America. You have to know this. Every mosque in the United States of America is staffed by a leader that is coming either from Egypt or Saudi Arabia. So we have to have open channels. Those channels need to be verified and to have the extreme vetting and to have a push on those governments to do the right thing. But closing the channels is the wrong thing to do.
And we need to set the terms.
Oh, absolutely, we have to set the terms. And, it's like the older brother. When you have an older brother, in the house, he can be able to set, and everybody's looking out for America to be strong and to set the rules and to set the tone of how things are supposed to be done. Because with a strong America, there is more peace, there is more world order, there is more respect, and there is more things can be done. But a weak America like Obama,
there's a new sheriff in town.
Absolutely.
Boom. Well, folks, that's all for this week. We appreciate you being with us here at Abraham's Tent for this week's segment. Thanks. Have a great week. We'll see you next time.